Hey everybody, this is Grace. In this video, I'm going to talk about something I mentioned at the end of the last video that I made on this topic on more of alternative ways of looking at things, alternative views, opinions, and all that. And each one of them I've given a little bit of background, and one of them I said that I had a mom who was a conspiracy theorist. When it comes down to it, she had him on pretty much everything. She believed in, she basically believed in it all. Seriously. And she put it out there. She was different, definitely, for her age. I mean, for her era. She got that honestly, if you ask me, because her mother, who lived next door to us in their house, they built our house, had our house built, actually. My dad added on to it for all of us. But her mother lived next door, my grandmother, and her mother was the first feminist I ever knew. Okay, very different for her era, although not, because she was born, her mother, my grandmother, was born in 1902. Think about it. In the United States, what was going on when she became an adult at age 18? What was going on in 1920? So, yeah, think about it. But she also stood up for children's rights. Okay, abuse against children. So her mother. And then my mom was a conspiracy theorist, like I said. And me, I'm a scientist. Yeah. That doesn't mean that I'm all strict and I only believe in science. What science is, I'm a free thinker. I'm an independent thinker. If I can disagree or agree with various things, not just scientists, scientific, anything scientific. Yeah, but I'm a free thinker. Maybe I could have said it that way. But no, I'm a scientist, and I would say I was the first in my family, and only to this day. So, yeah. So my grandmother was a feminist. The first feminist I ever knew. My mother was a conspiracy theorist, and I'm a scientist. So. Okay, so basically I come from a line of people who had theories, Yeah, really, when it comes down to it, I could narrow it down. Of course, it's bigger than that, but narrow it down. And at this point in my life, right now, a thing going on with me is to take what some people I've heard and kind of put a little funny spin to it, and to say right off the bat, like I'm saying this one, it's wrong. What I'm saying is not based on fact. It's not, I would say it's 99.99% just BS. It's just an alternative way of looking at things. Okay, and I mean, by some really odd chance, 0.01, it could be true, but it's not. It simply isn't going to be in any of these videos, and not this one. But this one, I want to talk about UFOs and aliens. Like I said, my mother was a conspiracy theorist, and that was one of the things that she was into. Okay, now a little bit about my own history about UFOs, and I mentioned that in another video, maybe this one earlier. Several things have happened since then, since I started this video. But my mother was into UFOs and aliens and all this kind of stuff, and then more. And she would have me as a child go outside in the backyard and look for aliens and UFOs with her. Okay, we're mainly UFOs. Okay. Now I didn't, and I still don't believe in this kind of stuff. I mean, there's a possibility. I believe there is a possibility, but I just don't believe so much. Okay. Now, years later, I think it was back in the 1980s. I'm fairly certain, mid-1980s. I had moved from Texas to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Okay, we lived in Fort Lauderdale, Pembroke Pines, Hollywood, Florida. We lived in a lot of places besides Florida, in Texas. But I was married to Adam back then, and we were staying in a house that was a duplex. And I remember I left because we got in an argument or something. Yeah. So, but in the the mind frame at the time, And I was angry with him, and I left, and, you know, go to your corners, ding, ding, ding kind of thing. So I left, and I was driving around. I saw something weird in the sky, seriously. Now remember, I am not a believer. And I saw it, and it was round like a ball, you know, and it had windows all the way around it, or at least from what I could see, what part I could see that had windows. And it looked like people were standing in it. Okay, it wasn't a blimp. Adam calls them balloons. But it wasn't a balloon, hot air balloon. But I don't know what it was. And so I wasn't very far from our home, so I, you know, basically got there as fast as possible, got him, he came out with me, and we went to see. Well, when we went back, people were stopped, had stopped their cars, turned off their engines, or left them on maybe, and got out, and people, including us at this point, were pointing up at it. It was still there. And like I said, it looked like people in this round circular thing. The windows, you know, went around, and we were all pointing at it. And we never heard anything. We never reported it because, you know, they'll think you're crazy. But, and you might be. So, I mean, it wasn't just us. It was other people on the road. It was, you know, a lot of people. And, you know, stopped the cars pointing up at it. Never heard anything about it on the news. Never heard anything ever again. So that was my sighting. But like I said, it could have been anything. How do I know that it was some UFO? I don't know that. He doesn't know that. We don't know what it was. So jumping to conclusions, you know, seriously, that's what it would be. Now, I have heard, since I was a child, I'm not picking on anybody these days, since I was a child, I heard people say things about, you know, aliens and stuff, and that they were abducted and brought up to this, you know, the UFO, and done experiments on. And like I say, I'm not a person who says, no, that can't possibly happen, but I just don't agree. I just don't believe it. And I'll give my own little thing of what happens to me. When? Okay. Now, if I were that kind that would believe that kind of thing, I could do that. But I know what it is. Whenever I, you know, well, recently a doctor had tried me on different kinds of medication for diabetes, and that's happened over many years. Okay, I have been on one medication for 20 years. 21. This year will be 21 years. And that's the only one I can take, seriously. But they try to add other ones to it, and it's always winds up being a disaster when they try it. Like, as it turns out, I can't take anything but sulfa. I can't take anything that works off the pancreas. That's what I've been told by these professionals. The first one was a pharmacist, and the other one was a registered nurse, a nurse practitioner. Anyway, so when I was taking one of those extra medicines, it made me, well, it was actually two different ones, but over many years, like 20 years or so, would make me want to eat everything in sight, anything, carbohydrates. My goodness, that's all I craved all day, all night. In the middle of the night, I'd wake up either sweating or I'd wake up chilled, and I had to go eat, felt really strong eating something that was sugary, something with carbohydrates in it. And yeah, they got me off of that then, they got me off of that now. But the whole thing of eating, especially late at night, especially even in my sleep, yeah, you know what would happen? Night terrors, most often, night terrors. And those night terrors, some would call them night terrors, some would call them just nightmares, or it's just a result of eating things that were not good late at night. And you know what happens? I have these very weird, like I said, night terrors, and some people just call them strange dreams. But it would be like something like a wall, sometimes it was a wall, coming toward me, you know, like I was in my room asleep. I'm asleep now. This is not me awake. I'm asleep, and it's like a wall, dark wall coming toward me. That's the most common one. It's like it is a recurring dream, recurring nightmare, and night terror. And sometimes, one time it was hilarious. It was the, the Lucky Charms cereal, the little leprechaun or whatever on it. One time it was that. Yeah. Yeah. But sometimes it's like, maybe you've ever watched Stargate, and they did one about that kind of thing, that when there was an alternate universe, or they could see what was, for some reason they started seeing what was already on this universe but in a different dimension or something. Yeah, it would be like something like that in my nightmares. And so, or just something coming at me like a ghost, or, some kind of being in my dreams. And that's because I had eaten something filled with carbohydrates. Yeah. So, and I learned that the hard way. And what I didn't know, like in Adam's culture, he grew up in a country across the globe, is that they always tell people that. It's like something that they spread around, like don't do this or don't do that. But mine were, at least people I know, I had never heard of that before. Don't eat anything sweet before you go to bed. Never had heard that. Or I guess you could even drink something sweet, but I don't drink anything that has carbohydrates in it at all, ever, since I think mid-1980s. So, yeah. Since I was taking that medication, and since then I had a bad habit of eating late at night, because I developed when I was taking that medication, and it's like a pattern. It just keeps going on. Cutting this on and off, allergy season. Oh my goodness. But anyway, yeah. I mean, I think that could happen, that a person could think that it was real, because it does seem very real. I have actually found myself way in the other part of the house screaming because I had this feeling something was coming after me. Now, I just don't, because like I was saying, it became a habit to eat late at night. And I would always want something sweet, and sometimes I would be asleep, seriously. And so the thought of being able to stop myself when I'm asleep is, yeah, and according to my mom, I was a sleepwalker as a child, and that one time she found me down the end of the road, her and my dad, her husband, my dad, found me at the end of the road as a child, sleepwalking. So the whole sleepwalking eating thing, yeah. And now it's even more difficult, but I have, starting in the end of May, I decided that starting June 1st and from then on, I was going to cut any bakery item out of my diet. And when I say bakery item, I mean everything from bread to tortillas to stuff I don't eat really. Cookies, cakes, pies. Anything you would, like, walk into a Kroger bakery, the big one. They have big ones in Texas, but you walk in, anything there. No, it's out of my diet, except once a week. But you know what happens that once a week? Think about it, yeah. So I could see how some people would think, if they had this happen to them, that they would think that something had carried them off to a UFO. If I weren't that kind, I'm more of a bit of a lucid dreamer, so I can wake up and get myself up out of this kind of nightmare. Some people can't. Some people, they just keep going through it, and that might continue to where they're brought up, and they feel like they're brought up into a UFO. See, there's an alternative way of looking at it. I can't say 100% I'm right or wrong. No, I can't do that. It's just my thought. You see? So, anyway, I have a lot more, thoughts on this about, why do people believe in UFOs? I think some people believe for various reasons, really. I can think of so many reasons, like including my mom, why she would have believed in it. And for some people, I'm not going to diagnose anybody out of it, but I could say that from experience, some of it is just a need for escapism. Like, I like to watch some of the CW shows, like the new Roswell, New Mexico, not the old one, but the new one, and what is it, Riverdale, and like the Archies, and Supergirl. Yeah. I'll watch those for the past. But that's that temporary need for, just a little entertainment. Some people use it for escapism, total escapism from what's really going on in their world that might be difficult for them to handle. So it's kind of like they want to go into an alternative universe, you know, or alternative state. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. But I have more to say on this, but man, my allergies are getting to me. So, yeah, my goodness. I'm going to wrap this one up. I might do more. I said I've done more. This is the third one I've done today. That's basically me talking about a, you know, what some people think, you know, some are conspiracy theorists. Some just say, you know, this is how I see it. But it's not based on anything. It's just creative thoughts, creating stories, or you know, just talking about stuff that you've seen that, you know, you don't know what it is. You don't know what it is. Okay, just it's a guess. But like I said, I would see any of these if it were taken to a conspiracy theory kind of level, or saying this is fact, it would be wrong. Wrong. This is just kind of for fun. It is for fun. It's not for anything other than that. You know, sharing stories for fun, vlog along with it, and that kind of thing. So, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Allergies. Oh my goodness. If you want to subscribe to this channel and you haven't already, click the circle. If you want to watch another video on this channel, click one of the rectangles. Like, subscribe, comment, and share on your own social media if you would, and I'll talk to you on another video. Bye.